Well, as you're writing your essay this Sunday, everything you need is in the work you've done. So we talked about the importance of those lunch frames, the emotional peels, etc. We looked into the sound bites that show those lunch frames in action. A lot of good material here. So if you've done the homework, you have the material. If you haven't, or you need to do it more thoughtfully, you know where to go back, how to get your ideas together, how to show how influential those Luntz talking points were in shaping public opinion and why they, or rather, what voter emotions they target. That's a good warm up. And then when you move into the heritage, it's a little bit more elevated, but it's a similar thing. Instead of directly jiggling with the voters' emotions, they kind of elevate it and they try to lie their way into denying the most important, that is, the most threatening facts about climate change. And I broke it into sections, why each of those sections is so threatening and how they lie about it. And then along the way, we looked into the loaded language, the fraudulent citations, the woozle effect. Remember, we looked into Richard Toll, not only how they misrepresented him by cherry picking, but how in his original article, which is linked to the footnote in the Heritage Report, contradicts exactly what they said, he said. So it's about distortion, cherry picking, misrepresentation, but in its overall organization, and you don't have to write about all of these, but just pick any one as an example. It's about how they very selectively chose the facts about climate change that are most threatening, and by extension, most threatening to the fossil fuel industry, which is very influential in funding these guys. And then from heritage, we went a little bit deeper with the Toxic 10, quite a lot about that. That was really useful. And then we also had a little bit about Facebook and API and American Petroleum Institute and EV opinions, a little bit more on the heritage. And as we move into it a little bit further, we've got the climate assessment done by our government, which was so full of lies, the DOE. And so you've got all these really good layers of deception. And you should be able to walk through any number of them from what we did in the class and what you have in homework, and basically put together that essay, which is going to touch on and design. Let me go to the home page. You're going to write about the Luntz frames, you're going to write about the Heritage Report, and you're going to write about the Toxic 10 and Chris Wright's DOE. You've got 3 sections of disinformation. And that, by the way, is your through line. So if you're wondering how to organize your essay, your thesis can very generally say there are many, many methods of disinformation. Leave it open. The first one, Luntz talking points, and focus on how they sway the voters' opinions against recognizing climate change with a variety of lies / disinformation. And then you can move on to another way that they spread lies, disinformation about climate change is through these elevated reports, and talk about how the heritage distorts. Another way, which is actually more insidious, is they put in charge of our Department of Energy Chris Wright, who is a former fracking executive who hires a lot of climate denialists to put together a bogus report. That's a lot of influence. That's a lot of lying. And then look at the Toxic 10, how they flood the internet with nonsense. And that's it. And each one, you're talking about distorting and lying and turning people away from the genuine concern about how climate change will be profoundly disruptive for our lives and the lives of future generations. I hope this gives you an idea of how to approach it. Really, everything there is in your homework. And now you just have to narrow it down And before you write, you want to make sure you have all your sources in front of you for each section. Otherwise, it won't hold together. And then you start folding in section by section the different strategies of disinformation. It really won't hold together. The number one reason essays fail is people think they can start and then go look for information. No, you have to have all that information in front of you before you write a word on your essay, because that's what's going to shape your essay. Otherwise, you'll just have this wandering maze of altogether a lot of information, but no real plan or focus. So get it all laid out in front of you. Collection is when you read. Selection is when you narrow it down to your topics, paragraph topics, and the supporting quotations, all of them throughout the whole essay. And reflection is when you write. Don't try to shortcut that process. You really need to have everything in front of you before you write a word. I hope this helps you get focused. Email if you have any questions. I'll be around, especially later today, so, no panic. Just figure out where you're at and let's talk if you need to.